It started on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind that felt too peaceful to be real. The woods behind our house had always been part of our daughter Emily's playground. She loved exploring, collecting rocks, and pretending she was on grand adventures. That day, she ran off after lunch, laughing, her little red hoodie bright against the gray of the trees. We told her not to go far. She never came back. At first, we thought she was hiding, maybe trying to scare us like she sometimes did. We called her name until our voices cracked, but only the echo came back. The woods seemed to swallow our words whole. My wife ran down the trail, screaming, "Emily!" over and over, her voice trembling like the branches in the wind. I followed, pushing through bushes, tripping over roots, but there was no sign of her. No footprints, no giggles, no small red hoodie. When the police arrived, the air turned heavy. Flashlights cut through the dark, beams gliding across tree trunks and empty paths. Dogs barked, officers shouted, but the woods stayed silent, almost too silent. Hours turned into a blur. My wife clutched Emily's stuffed bunny, whispering prayers through tears. I just stared at the tree-line, hoping she'd walk out any second, dirt on her shoes, smile on her face. But instead, they found something else. It was nearly midnight when an officer called us over. "We found this," he said, his voice low. Lying in a patch of dead leaves was a doll, old, cracked, and filthy. Its porcelain skin was chipped, its eyes a milky, pale blue. One of its arms was missing, and its little red dress looked eerily familiar. My wife gasped. "That's Emily's hoodie," she whispered. It wasn't just the color. It was the exact same fabric, torn at the sleeve where Emily had once snagged it on a fence. The officer bagged the doll, saying it might be a clue. But when I reached out, something inside me froze. The doll's face, it looked like Emily. The same dimple on the left cheek, the same tiny freckle under her eye. I blinked, thinking it was my imagination, but the resemblance was too perfect, too wrong. We took the doll home, against the police's advice. My wife couldn't stop holding it, brushing dirt off its cracked face. "It's her," she kept saying. "It's her somehow." That night, I woke to the sound of soft humming, a lullaby we used to sing to Emily. The sound was coming from the doll. Its eyes were open. I froze, staring at it in the dim light. Its lips, cracked and stiff, seemed to twitch. And then, faint but clear, I heard it whisper, "Mommy, Daddy, why did you leave me here?" Neither of us slept that night. The doll sat on the dresser, facing the bed like a quiet witness to our fear. My wife, Sarah, kept the lamp on, her eyes red from crying. Every few minutes, she'd glance at the doll as if expecting it to move again. I tried to convince myself we were both just exhausted, our minds playing tricks after a traumatic day. But deep down, I knew what I'd heard. That voice, that whisper. By morning, Sarah was gone from the bed. I found her in Emily's room, sitting on the floor with the doll in her lap. She dressed it in one of Emily's old dresses, the blue one with tiny daisies printed on the collar. "Sarah, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. "She's cold," she said softly, brushing imaginary dust off the doll's cheek. "She doesn't like the dark." The way she said it made my stomach twist. It wasn't she as in the doll. It was she as in Emily. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. At first, it was little things. Doors creaking open on their own, the smell of lavender, Emily's shampoo, lingering in empty rooms, the sound of small footsteps down the hallway when no one was there. Then came the humming again, that same lullaby, the one only Emily knew. Sometimes it was so faint it sounded like a memory. Other times it was right beside us. On the third night, I woke to whispering. I couldn't make out the words, just a soft, broken voice, like a child trying to speak through tears. The sound came from the dresser. The doll's head was turned toward me. I was sure I had left it facing the other way. I got up, trembling, and walked over. Its glass eyes glistened faintly in the moonlight. "Emily?" I whispered before I could stop myself. And then, I swear, one tear rolled down from the corner of its eye. I jumped back, nearly tripping. Sarah rushed in from the hallway, clutching a candle. "She's trying to talk to us," she said, eyes wild but full of hope. "We just have to listen." That's when I noticed the small patch of dirt on the doll's feet. Damp, fresh soil. "Sarah, where did you take her?" I asked. Her hands trembled. "I heard her calling last night, from the woods. We argued for hours, but she wouldn't let go of the doll. She swore Emily's spirit was trapped inside it, that she could feel her heartbeat when she held it close. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to, but something about the doll felt wrong. Like it wasn't our daughter reaching out, but something else pretending to be her. That night, the humming returned, louder this time, echoing through the house. It came from every room, blending into a single, haunting song. The lights flickered, and the air turned ice cold. Then came the voice again, clearer, closer. "I'm not in the woods anymore, Daddy. I'm home." By the fourth night, I could no longer tell where the nightmares ended and reality began. The house didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt occupied. The humming, the whispers, the creaking floors. It all blended into one endless, suffocating sound. Even when it was quiet, I could feel her there, watching. Sarah changed first. She started talking to the doll as if it were alive, no, as if it were Emily. She'd set it at the kitchen table, serve it cereal and whisper, "Eat up, sweetheart." Once, I caught her brushing the doll's hair and singing the lullaby again. Every time I told her to stop, she'd look at me like I was the crazy one. "You don't hear her?" she'd ask. "She's talking to me, Michael. She's scared. She says the woods are angry." The woods. The same woods that had taken Emily. I didn't know what scared me more. The idea that Sarah was losing her mind, or that maybe she wasn't. That evening, I decided to move the doll to the attic while Sarah was asleep. I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until the house was silent, then grabbed it gently by the waist. Its porcelain face looked peaceful, almost kind, until I noticed its lips were slightly parted, like it was about to speak. As I reached the attic stairs, a chill crawled down my neck. I froze. The doll's head turned, slowly, creaking like old wood, and its eyes locked onto mine. A whisper slipped out, "Don't leave me again, Daddy." I dropped it. The sound of porcelain hitting the floor cracked through the house like thunder. Sarah came running, screaming my name. She shoved me aside, kneeling beside the doll, crying as if I'd hurt a real child. "You monster," she sobbed. "You hurt her." Her hands were shaking, but when she lifted the doll, I saw something I'll never forget. The place where the porcelain had cracked wasn't white inside. It was red, like flesh. I stumbled back, choking on air. "That's impossible," I whispered. Sarah looked up, tears streaming down her face. "It's her," she said. "I told you." We buried the doll under blankets that night, but the noises didn't stop. Around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of tiny footsteps crossing the hallway. Not wood creaking, actual footsteps. I opened the door just in time to see the doll standing at the end of the corridor. Its head tilted, its small hands hanging stiff at its sides. The moonlight caught its glass eyes, and for a split second, I thought I saw them blink. Then it turned and walked into Emily's old room. The next morning, Sarah was gone. The doll was sitting on her side of the bed, holding a lock of my wife's hair. The morning Sarah disappeared, the house was dead silent. The only thing left of her was the doll, sitting upright on the bed with that lock of her hair still tangled in its tiny hand. I stared at it for what felt like hours, my body refusing to move, my mind clawing at explanations that didn't make sense. Maybe Sarah had run into the woods looking for Emily again. Maybe she'd finally broken. Or maybe, God help me, maybe the doll had taken her. By noon, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I packed a flashlight, my phone, and a small pocket knife. Then I picked up the doll, wrapped it in a towel, and drove toward the woods. I didn't tell the police. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe that my wife was missing because our daughter's spirit was trapped in a doll? The woods were colder than I remembered. The trees seemed taller, the paths narrower, the air heavier. The deeper I went, the more I felt it. That familiar hum, soft at first, then rising in pitch, echoing through the trees like 1,000 whispers. "Daddy!" The voice called. "You came back." I froze. My throat went dry. "Emily?" I said, the word trembling out of me. The flashlight flickered. The doll shifted in my hands. Just a twitch, but enough to make me drop it. It landed in the mud, face down. I reached for it, but then I saw something move just ahead. A small figure, pale, standing between the trees. For a second, I thought my heart stopped. It looked like her, Emily. She was wearing the same red hoodie she'd vanished in, her hair tangled and damp. She smiled, but it wasn't the sweet, innocent smile I remembered. It was wide, too wide. Her head tilted slightly, and her voice came out in a broken whisper. "Mommy's here too." I stumbled backward, my flashlight shaking in my hand. "Where is she?" I asked. Emily raised one small, trembling hand and pointed deeper into the woods. I followed, branches scratching at my face, mud clinging to my boots. The deeper I went, the louder the humming grew, until it turned into that lullaby again. Sarah's voice now joining in. And then I saw them. In a small clearing stood two figures. Sarah, pale and smiling, and beside her, another doll. It was identical to the first one. Same cracked porcelain face. Same blue dress. Sarah's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "She wanted a family again," she whispered. "She didn't mean to hurt anyone." I stepped closer, shaking. "Sarah, what did you do?" "She's our daughter," Sarah said, smiling. "Now we can all stay together." Before I could answer, the ground beneath me shifted. My foot sank into something soft, something that squelched when I moved. I shone the light down and saw dozens of dolls half buried in the soil. Arms, faces, hair. They weren't dolls. They were people, their skin pale and glassy, eyes open but empty. And in the center of it all, the doll I dropped in the mud sat upright again, smiling. "Daddy," it said, "you shouldn't have come back." The ground pulsed beneath my feet, slow, rhythmic, alive. Every beat felt like a heartbeat buried deep below the roots. The flashlight flickered again, and the forest seemed to inhale. The air thickened, heavy with the smell of damp soil and decay. I wanted to run, but Sarah's voice kept echoing through the trees. "Don't be afraid, Michael. She just wants you home." The doll in the mud blinked. I swear I saw it. A slow, deliberate blink, like it was testing its new body. Its porcelain skin flexed, cracking along the edges, and the soft sound of bones creaking echoed beneath it. I stumbled backward, the beam of light shaking violently in my hands. "Sarah, we need to leave," I shouted. She only smiled. "We can't leave her again. She remembers what we did." "What we did," I repeated, confused and terrified. Sarah's eyes darted to the ground, to the shallow mounds surrounding us. "You buried her here," she whispered. "You told me it was an accident, but you lied." Her words hit me like ice. "No," I said, shaking my head. "She wandered off, Sarah." "She? Then why?" Sarah interrupted, her voice rising to a scream. "Does she remember drowning in your hands?" The world tilted. My knees gave out. Memories, blurred, suffocating, wrong, flashed in my mind. Water, mud, Emily's cries fading into gurgles. My hands holding her shoulders, trying to pull her up. No, I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to save her. Wasn't I? The forest groaned again, and the trees leaned closer, their branches twisting like fingers. From every direction came whispers, children's voices, singing, laughing, crying. Faces began to form on the bark, small porcelain faces with hollow eyes. The forest wasn't made of trees. It was made of them. The doll, the one that had followed me from the house, began to rise. Its joints popped, dirt falling from its hair. Its voice came in layers. Emily's, Sarah's, dozens more beneath it. "We all belong here now," it said. "The forest keeps us safe." Sarah's skin started to pale, cracking like porcelain. She reached for me, her touch cold and brittle. "Join us, Michael," she whispered. "It doesn't hurt anymore." I backed away, tears blurring my vision. "You're not my family," I said. "You're not them." The doll tilted its head, smiling that same too-wide grin. "Then why do we all remember the same scream?" Suddenly, the ground gave way. I fell backward into the mud, surrounded by pale faces staring up at me. I clawed at the soil, gasping as hands, tiny broken hands, reached from beneath to pull me down. Sarah watched, her face emotionless. "She forgives you," she said. As the mud filled my mouth, I heard one final whisper, right against my ear. "Now you can stay with me forever, Daddy." And then silence. Only the hum of the forest remained. Only the sound of breathing, slow, steady, eternal. 3 weeks after Michael and Sarah Carter vanished, the search was officially called off. The local sheriff told reporters it was one of the most disturbing disappearances he'd seen in 20 years. Not just because the couple was gone, but because of what they left behind. The house was a mess of overturned furniture, muddy footprints, and broken glass. On the bed, wrapped neatly in a child's blanket, lay 2 dolls. One with blonde curls and a red hoodie, the other in a blue dress with daisies around the collar. Both dolls were warm to the touch, as if someone had just been holding them. But that wasn't the strangest part. On the kitchen table sat a camera, half buried under dirt and leaves, the lens cracked but still recording. When the footage was recovered, the investigators expected nothing but static. What they saw instead kept them awake for nights. The first few minutes were shaky, showing Michael's flashlight beam cutting through the woods. He was breathing hard, whispering Sarah's name. Then the camera panned to a small clearing, the same one from the missing posters of Emily's last known location. The soil there was dark, freshly disturbed. Then came a child's voice. "Daddy." The camera turned. A little girl stood at the edge of the clearing. Her face was pale, porcelain-like. Her eyes were glass. "Emily?" Michael's voice cracked. "Why did you leave me here?" the girl asked. The screen trembled as the camera dropped. There was the sound of crying, then whispering, and then the forest itself began to move. Trees bending, ground pulsing, shapes shifting in the dark. One frame froze on something impossible. Dozens of faces emerging from the dirt, their eyes open, lips moving in silence. The final image was Sarah's face, smiling directly into the lens. Her skin cracked like porcelain. Her voice, soft, almost kind, whispered, "She's not lost anymore. None of us are." Then the recording ended. When the police searched that same clearing later, they found only one thing: the camera and a small red shoe half buried in the mud. No human remains, no sign of the Carters, just rows of strange porcelain fragments scattered in the soil, like the forest had been shedding its skin. Locals say that at night, if you walk too deep into those woods, you can still hear humming. A lullaby. Sometimes it's a woman's voice, sometimes it's a child's. And if you're unlucky enough to stay long enough, you might find a doll lying in the dirt. Cold at first, but growing warmer the longer you hold it. They say that if you listen closely, it whispers. Not words, not cries, just a simple, broken question. Will you stay with us too? And if you answer, if you speak even a single word, they say your voice becomes part of the song forever.